They thought they could do with President Trump what they've done with presidents in the past and get away with it. And they found out last night that they can't. And the world found out last night that you can't. And that's important, not just on this issue, but for so many other issues happening around the world. I think that what we are seeing is that this is a president that tells you what he's going to do, and then he does it. And I think that to a lot of people, including the Iranian regime, is shocking.
Yesterday, the rest of the entire world was reminded of a very important lesson when it comes to dealing with America. Never, ever cross us, and always heed our warnings. We are the most powerful nation in the entire world with the most powerful military, and it's not even close.
For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up.
Last night's Operation Midnight Hammer, it's being called, was an incredible success. It was a stroke of military genius filled with tactical brilliance and execution that makes me proud to be an American.
At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of a plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world.
And the best part about all of this was that none of the congressional Democrats were informed about it beforehand.
We're learning, by the way, that some Republican U.S. lawmakers were in fact told in advance about these strikes on Iran. Sources telling CNN they include the House Speaker Mike Johnson and the Senate Majority Leader John Thune. But top Democrats on the House and Senate Intelligence Committees were kept in the dark. That's what we're told. Their Republican counterparts were briefed, even though they all are members of the so-called Gang of Eight, who are usually almost always notified before major U.S. military engagements.
And why was that such a smart move? Well, because the Democrats are loudmouths and they sabotage President Donald Trump at every single turn. They have the nerve to then expect to be filled in on sensitive and confidential information like this? I don't think so. Here's a great example of why you wouldn't tell a Democrat about this beforehand. This is an article from the Washington Post that is absolutely sickening. They post the location of every U.S. military base in the Middle East almost gleefully, as if they want Iranian officials to see, here you go, Iran, take a look at all of our U.S. military bases you might possibly strike and take revenge on now that our president has bombed the ever-living hell out of you. Disgusting. Washington Post should be fined for this and should probably face some sort of consequences beyond that even. It's almost treasonous. And you know damn well if the Democrats were informed about this beforehand that they would have taken to the media to leak it in an attempt to stop President Donald Trump and to sabotage the mission. And so to that I say bravo for the Trump administration for not disclosing any of this information to them. They didn't need to know it. And I also quickly want to point out that the Democrats have spent all of this time saying Secretary Pete Hegseth is massively incompetent and doesn't deserve his position as Secretary of Defense. Yet here we had one of the best, most efficient missions happen under everyone's nose without anyone knowing about it, including all of the Democrats in America. Last night, Pete Hegseth proved he is the best guy for the role. Now, what are the implications of Operation Midnight Hammer? What can we expect in the aftermath? If you were on X last night, all you saw were comments from everyone on both sides of the aisle stating, this is World War III. This is World War III. We're done. This is it. Thank you, Trump. You just started World War III, you idiot, according to users on X. But I'm here to tell you this will not be World War III. In fact, it won't even be close to that. What do you think Iran has left? They are massively incompetent and they are incredibly weakened. Marco Rubio sums it up really well right here.
Okay, the regime wants peace. We're ready for peace.
Okay.
They want to do something else. They're incredibly vulnerable. They can't even protect their own airspace.
We have complete control over Iran right now when it comes to airspace. How on earth is this country going to wage a war against America, Israel, and likely the rest of our allies if they really start hitting us hard? They're not going to. We have so much more power over them that we were able to execute this operation without a single bullet being fired. America went in with the B-2s, dropped all of the bunker buster bombs on their nuclear facilities, and left. And that was it. That's the end of the story. Iran just sat there helpless, because that's exactly what they are. And Vice President J.D. Vance summarizes it very well right here.
They tried to build a conventional missile program to attack neighbors in the region. That missile program has shown to be a failure. They have funded terrorism aggressively in the region, and now most of their terrorism proxies are destroyed. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
They are in fact not good at war. When they try funding proxy terrorist organizations against us, we decimate them too. Remember what happened with the Houthis? We had President Donald Trump posting kill cam footage of the Houthis on the internet. We wiped the floor with them and lost practically nothing during that conflict. When Iran funds proxies, they fail. When Iran tries to fight back, they fail. When Iran ignores peace talks with America, they fail. And President Donald Trump took to Truth Social last night to remind them of this with a firm warning, stating, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. I absolutely love my president, and I love the way he tweets and puts out posts on social media. Absolutely amazing. Best president in modern U.S. history. But this is absolutely true. Iran has nothing left. As a reminder, these are all of the people that have been taken out by Israel's armed forces and America's combined might. Their military is decimated. All of their leaders are practically dead. But what if China and Russia come to their aid? Remember, they're allies with them. We could be in big trouble. Russia has a lot of nukes. Here's the likelihood of what's going to happen. Because first and foremost, after Israel struck Iran, Iran reached out to Russia and China already, saying, hey, remember that alliance we started? Well, we're being attacked right now. You know what Russia and China's response practically were to Iran? Ooh, you better make peace with America. This doesn't look good. Yeah, that's the extent of it. Essentially, China and Russia will be sending Iran a get-well-soon card like this. So what options does Iran actually have? Well, as some people have pointed out, they very likely will get very petty and might do something incredibly dumb, like closing the Strait of Hormuz. This is a strait that ships out a lot of oil and blah, blah, blah with ships and transports. But the truth of the matter is, that would only marginally hurt America. We would barely feel the effects of that. Once again, Marco Rubio in an interview this morning stated this when it comes to Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz.
Do you expect Iran to move to close the Strait of Hormuz to try to disrupt oil transportation across the world?
Well, I encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Straits of Hormuz for their oil. If they do that, it'll be another terrible mistake. It's economic suicide for them if they do it. And we retain options to deal with that. But other countries should be looking at that as well. It would hurt other countries' economies a lot worse than ours. It would be, I think, a massive escalation that would merit a response, not just by us, but from others. So, look, they're going to say what they need to say. You know, these are the things that need to happen for their own internal politics and so forth. But in the end, we're going to judge them by the actions that they take moving forward. We had 3 objectives. We struck those 3 objectives with decisive force. And that was the point of this mission. And that's what we achieved. What happens next will depend on what they do. They want to negotiate. We're ready to negotiate. They want to get cute and do things that are dangerous. We have responses available that are devastating.
Essentially, this would cripple and devastate Iran's economy, which at this point in time, they can't afford. And if you want to talk about Iran's allies, China would wind up being more devastated by this move than America would, because only roughly 3.5% of the world's oil travels through the Strait of Hormuz, but 90% of China's oil comes from Iran. So this will be devastating to China much more than it will be to America. And if anything, this just reminds us that Trump's drill baby drill campaign is incredibly important as well, because if we can really ramp that up and start doing that, we practically wouldn't feel any effect from being in a conflict with Iran. Now, here's the other thing Iran can do, and it looks like they've chosen that path. This was breaking news even while I was doing the research and getting ready to record this video. I reported this on my X account moments ago before recording this video. You can follow me there at American_Advo. Iran appears, according to their state TV, to be deciding to rebuild their nuclear facilities. This, if true, is a critical error on their part, because what will happen if they try doing that is a second round of B-2 bombers will come in, they will be powerless to stop them because they can't control their own airspace even, and they will be bombed again and finished off. And I also want to point out that if Iran continues to resist, if they continue to be stubborn, President Donald Trump has made it very clear on his Truth Social that we know where the Ayatollah is hiding. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, at least not for now. But we do not want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Now, President Donald Trump upheld his word. Operation Midnight Hammer only took out nuclear facilities, and to our knowledge, there was not a single casualty as a result of this bombing strike on Iran last night. However, if Iran continues to defy peace talks, if they continue to go against the Iran nuclear deal that we are proposing, and if they continue to do stupid stuff like rebuild their nuclear facility, or even worse, decide to attack U.S. military bases in the Middle East, then we will quickly and decisively end them. And a regime change, in my opinion, would be completely necessary. We put the target out on Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, we know exactly where he's hiding, and then we replace him with someone much more agreeable. And yes, this is a controversial view, but this is not something that America hasn't already done before. And yes, it doesn't always work very well, but the fact of the matter is what's going on right now is not working at all. Iran, a country that routinely chants death to America,
proud chanting death to America, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei agreed, condemning the economic sanctions on his people. Yes, death to America, Khamenei told the audience.
Seems to be hell-bent on obtaining nuclear power. This cannot be allowed, and I think the majority of America agrees with that. Now, of course, President Donald Trump campaigned on no new wars, and as a millennial myself, I very much so have Middle East fatigue. I do not want to see boots on the ground in the Middle East. I do not want to see a lengthy, drawn-out war. I'd prefer that a quick and decisive bombing run like we saw last night ended it. Just like I said in my last video about how this will not be World War III, but we might wind up using our B-2 bombers, I turned out to be correct, and I'm okay with that. But also, at the end of the day, Iran obtaining weaponized nuclear power would be bad for the world, not just for Israel, but also for America. And that's why what we did last night was very much so, in fact, America first. We were preemptively protecting ourselves from a country that very much so despises America very openly, funds proxy terrorists to fight us, and chants death to America. That's the end of the story, really. You don't have to like it, but that's the reality of what this is.